Welcome to Stages 2020. We are back at Bas Bleu Theatre, where they're preparing to open their next production, The Best Brothers. The director, Lynn Bogner, will join us for this episode. They say that hindsight is 2020. When we think about hindsight, we think about looking back over the arc of our lives, the decisions that we made, the mistakes, the regrets, and also the joys and the hopes. It all centers around love. That is the theme of this show, and we hope the theme of the upcoming year. I'm Lenny Scovel, and this is Stages. Welcome once again to Stages. We are here again at Bas Bleu Theatre as they prepare to open their first show of 2020, The Best Brothers, directed by Lynn Bogner. And we are here with Lynn today to talk about the show, to talk about directing, to talk about your journey in winding up here.
Here at Bas Bleu.
Here at Bas Bleu. So first of all, tell us about the show.
The show is two actors playing three characters. The action that sets the play in motion is the death of Bunny Best, mother to Kyle and Hamilton, the brothers.
The Best Brothers.
The Best Brothers, yes. And it's their dealing with all of the logistics, all of the emotions that come with a parent passing away, and then all of the family issues that tend to surface when something like that happens in our lives.
It is a comedy, though.
It is a comedy. It's hard to believe that there's a comedy where the beginning scene opens with this woman's, or the announcement of this woman's death. But yes. It is funny. Right.
And oftentimes that's the best way to approach these sensitive issues, right? Because if you go at it too head on, it's very off-putting to an audience.
Right.
So if you can fold in deeper meanings with a bit of brevity over the top.
Right. And I think that's something that this play in particular does extremely well. One of my favorite lines in the history of theater ever is from Steel Magnolias, "Laughter through tears is my favorite emotion." And this play has that same feeling and that same kind of theme where they are dealing with serious stuff, but they come at it with a really great sense of humor about it.
And I understand that this may be the Colorado premiere of this play?
I believe that's correct. With all the research I've done, I can't find another theater in Colorado that has produced this play. It's a
Canadian play originally, right?
It is. It's a Canadian playwright. His name is Daniel Macivor. I think I'm saying that correctly. And he is very well known in Canada. He's very well respected in Canada. I think he's also involved in the creation of the TV show Slings and Arrows.
Oh, excellent show.
So if you're a theater person, you might know about that show a little bit. I think he had a creative hand in that. But his plays are not done in America very often. And
Yet,
that's right.
Yet.
Well, a lot of his shows are one-man shows that he performs a lot. But I don't understand why people haven't done this show more. It's really a great script.
And as you mentioned, it's two actors. I want to talk a little bit about the process of working in that intimate space. But first, this is your main stage directorial debut in Northern Colorado, correct?
That is correct. I have actually directed theater since I was 19 years old. We won't say how many years ago that was, but it's been a while.
2 or 3 years ago.
It's been a little bit. But I started directing in college, and once I started directing, I totally fell in love with it. It became my passion in the theater. I've done other things to, as a job in the theater, but my true passion, what I really, really love to do, is to direct.
And why? Why is that?
It involves all of theater. And I have so much passion about theater. I like all of it. And so I like working on all of it. I like going through a script and analyzing it before we start rehearsal. I like working with actors. They are creative and brave and crazy sometimes, but it feels like home when I'm sitting in a theater working with a group of actors. I also get to, participate a little bit in, the set, the way the show looks, the lighting. We get to talk about, as directors, all of those things and have a hand in shaping everything for the show. Mm-hmm. And so that's really, really what I enjoy.
So as a director, mm-hmm. as the director, mm-hmm. Much of what you're responsible for is the voice of the show.
Right.
Right. And it begins with the script. Mm-hmm. The playwright has given you a vehicle right. That resonates with you personally on some level, yes.
Right.
And then it is your job to bring all of the other elements together mm-hmm. in a cohesive
right.
manner, right?
Yep.
So that the play has voice.
Right.
What is your personal process from just kind of in a general arc mm-hmm. from beginning to opening night of how you bring all of these disparate elements together and create a unified voice?
Well, for me, it starts with reading the play. And can I connect with what I read on the page? If I can connect with what's written down, I will be able to connect with it on stage. I will be able to work with all of these elements to create a world that these actors exist in, that the set is creating, that the lighting is shaping. And it is the process for me starts after reading. Casting, honestly, is one of the most important parts for me as a director. There's an adage about directing that if you cast right, if you cast correctly, 90% of your work is done. Mm-hmm. And that really means that you have the right actors for the right parts. And once you have the right actors for the right parts, you let them do their work and their job, and the show will kind of start to breathe life into itself. Mm-hmm. And that is absolutely what I have found with the process for this show. We have a great cast. They're, the right actors for the parts, and they have done phenomenal work.
Now, you say your process starts by reading scripts, making sure that there's something there that resonates with you, mm-hmm. that you can center on. Mm-hmm. What was it about this script?
There was actually a couple of things about this script. One was that it was a comedy. That is my style as a director. I have always been drawn to comedies. I've worked on other genres, but that's where my kind of specialty is as a director. The other thing that I really, really kind of identified with is that this is about two middle-aged people. I am now in my 40s, and a lot of the stuff that I was reading, that I was seeing, that I was, looking through in scripts and stuff, they weren't about people my age. They were about people that are either significantly younger or significantly older. And I was really looking for something that kind of spoke to where I am in my life right now. And this is kind of where I am in my life right now, where these, adult men, are is something I can identify with. And, my mother passed away 10 years ago, and so I absolutely could identify with them losing their mother and the whole process that's involved in all of that, goes into all of that, putting together the obituary, who's going to do the eulogy, all of that stuff. It was something that I definitely could feel in my own life.
And so what are some of the themes in this show?
I think some of the themes are being open to finding non-romantic love in your life. As a society, we kind of tend to emphasize romantic love, right? People write songs and plays about it. People start wars over it. It's very kind of, I think, overinflated in importance a little bit sometimes. But there's other places for us to find love in our lives. There's familial love. There's the love of our friends. Bunny finds love in her life, in her dog. She adopts a dog. Adopts a dog, and the dog becomes her vehicle for loving other people. She finally figures out how to love through this little dog. Mm-hmm. And I also think it's about accepting that life is messy sometimes. That's actually one of the lines in the show. Life is just messy. And it really is. And we tend to look for reasons and whys because we're humans and that we want answers for things.
Right, and we want to tidy it up. We want it to be nice and clean.
Absolutely. And this play reminds us that life doesn't always fall in line like you want it to, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Now, because plays are built on tension and
Mm-hmm.
confrontation, so you've got the two best brothers. Mm-hmm. Where are they seated at the table of love when the show starts?
Well, I think the older brother, Hamilton, has pushed himself away from the table of love. Love doesn't have, he's an ordered person. He likes things, in lines and grids. He's an architect, plans. And love isn't really in his life because he has not allowed it to be in his life. He is not close with his brother. He is not as close with his mother, I think, as he was at one time. His marriage is kind of crumbling, underneath him. And he is out of touch with love. And the younger brother, Kyle, is open to a lot more things. He does understand that, things just happen sometimes in life, and he's a much more of a roll with it kind of guy. And I think he is a lot more open to finding love however it shows up in his life.
Mm-hmm. So it's the two actors. Mm-hmm. That has got to be both a treat in rehearsals and a challenge,
right,
too, right? Because with a bigger cast, your focus is kind of split, and you're busy, right? You're busy literally managing the moving of the pieces on the chessboard.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what the process was like working with just the two actors. Did you like workshop a lot of the interaction, or did you come in with blocking kind of well thought out?
I came in with the blocking kind of generalized, nothing concrete, because I think for me it's helpful to have a general idea, but fine tune it when we get into the space, when we start working. I don't like to be too locked into something as an idea, because I know once we get in a room, with other people. Theater is so collaborative. I want to be able to be open to somebody else's ideas and suggestions, because some of the best things I've seen or put on stage have been other people's ideas or suggestions. So when we started, it was kind of generally blocked. We started rehearsal. We did a little, 3 or 4 days, I think, of table work. And I think that was actually probably one of the most important parts of the process that we had, really establishing a kind of common language of this world, these people, and these characters. You know, we really talked a lot about what their family was like when they were kids, what happened, you know, in their lives from like, you know, high school through adulthood. What were these characters going through then? What were the relationship between their parents? You know, like, what did that look like? What did, they actually go to prep school. And so, like, what is that like? I didn't go to prep school. We had to kind of talk through that and think about, like, what that looks like on somebody, you know. So we just really, really talked through their experiences and their kind of world.
Mm-hmm. So. I understand that seeing as it's an all-male cast,
Yeah.
that you lobbied for and got an all-male design team and running crew. Is that true?
No, in fact, quite the opposite. I asked, or I requested, an all-female design team, on purpose. I wanted to get some women in here, and it's not that we don't have female designers here or anywhere in Northern Colorado. They're all over, you know, they are here, but I just wanted to be intentional about working with women and giving women the chance to do some really fabulous work. So our designers are a little bit younger, and I think that's great. They're excited, they're creative, they have great ideas.
Yeah,
and
this is an amazing looking set.
Yeah, there's Toronto. It's been just a joy to kind of collaborate again with them and work on this set and lights and the costumes too. Yeah.
Wow. So you're not from here originally.
I'm not.
What was the arc? How did you wind up here?
So I grew up in Florida and went to college there. And then a couple of years after I was done with college, I have a theater degree from a liberal arts college in Florida. I decided it was time to move to New York. So I packed up my husband and all of our stuff, and we moved to New York City, which was great. We were there for a decade, and it was a great place to just be a creative person. I was really lucky. I got to do some really kind of interesting things. Like I worked for a producer on Broadway, so I worked on Chicago. I directed a show at Caroline's Comedy Club. We did a variety comedy hour there, which was super, it's an interesting space to work in, and working with comedians was a totally different experience because they were all comedians in this like comedy variety hour. So they wrote sketches, and then in between the sketches did like stand up, and we did some musical numbers in there too. So it was just like a funky little hour at Caroline's Comedy Club. And then I went into music management as a job, but continued to direct. Like I had a friend who wrote a play as part of his master's degree, and so I directed that for him, and you know, just little things like that around New York to kind of keep my toe in the directing pool, as it were. And then my husband got a job offer to come out to Colorado. And so here I am in Fort Collins. But at that point, when that happened, we had 2 little kids, and New York City was a lot to do with 2 small children and everything. So we came out here, and I have found a little creative home at Bas Bleu.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky. But I'm also the box office manager here at Bas Bleu. So if you call Bas Bleu for tickets, I'm probably going to be the person who answers the phone.
So talk nice.
Right. I always talk nice.
Yeah, no, I mean,
patrons, we really, generally speaking, have the nicest patrons I have ever dealt with. And because I ran a box office in Florida as well. And people people are very nice. I'm very lucky.
So in general, how does I mean, you can't compare Fort Collins to New York City, of course.
Right.
And yet you can look at the content of what's going on. You can look at the pool of talent that's around. How does Fort Collins compare to some of the other places that you've been?
So when I first kind of got back into theater in Fort Collins, I had no idea that the talent pool that was here. We're really lucky. We really have really fantastic actors and directors and designers. I'm not really quite sure how that happened, but I know that I'm super grateful that it exists, and that these creative people are here, and are willing to do the kind of theater that they do here in Fort Collins, because we really do have some really fantastic theater companies and plays, and it's great. So.
Well, welcome to town.
Thanks.
And Lynn Bogner, thank you for joining us today on Stages.
Thank you.